What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Dynasty Pod. Welcome in. We got a great one for you today. We are going to be doing our quarterback and tight end rankings for the season and for Dynasty. And then next week we are going to be doing running back and wide receiver. So stay tuned for those. It should be pretty fun. Quarterbacks, tight ends, a little bit easier than running backs and wide receivers. Not as much. So
a lot easier.
Yeah. Going through the rankings for these we're a lot less players to stat out and worry about. So let's jump into it because we've got a lot to talk about with these guys and a lot to talk about with their outlooks. So we've all got Josh Allen number one. No surprise here. No surprise. He's that guy. He rushes. He passes. He could do it all. What more can you say about Josh Allen, really?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, the thing that sets Josh Allen apart from the other two guys who are in that same tier to me, which would be Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, is just like his rushing ability is so far beyond those two guys. But, I mean, we've seen him be able to throw the ball as good or at least as good as the other two, as good or better. So, yeah, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, we all said Josh Allen is our number one quarterback. So
one thing too is that we don't really worry about him getting hurt as much as the other.
Yeah, he's been incredibly resilient.
Yeah, they're very tough.
Josh Allen is like a transformer. When he gets to the goal line, he turns into a fullback, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's another big reason. This team does not want to use their running backs at the goal line. They want to give it to Josh Allen. Either that or Josh Allen says, I'm just going to keep it and run it in because I know I can.
Yeah, and just do read option. Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, he's got incredible weapons. And Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. Got
and a great offensive line, too.
I mean, yeah, the offensive line is really
has
improved.
Tons of time in the pocket, you know.
Yep. Yeah, and then a couple role players, and Isaiah McKenzie, Jamison Crowder. He's got James Cook out of the backfield to catch passes, Devin Singletary. So this is a good team, and he's got a lot of weapons to work with. So no surprise here that he's number one. And Dawson Knox, too. Can't forget about him. So, and then, so we're all in unison on Josh Allen at number one, and Justin Herbert, we're all right there together, number two. Justin Herbert he's Josh Allen light because he can do all the exact same things we were talking about where he just runs in the ball. He's basically the same frame as Josh Allen. He's got those elite weapons. I would say the plus to Herbert is he's got a coach that's like, stay out there. Go for it on fourth down. I trust you. Make the plays. Pass the ball. So
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, he doesn't rely on his legs quite as much, but he's also going to have a coach that's going to put him out on fourth down, which is just more first downs, which is just more touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the difference between him and Mahomes to me, and we'll obviously talk about it when we get to Mahomes, is just the team situation, the weapons that he has. You know, I mean, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are two of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, and you have a similar situation with the Bills, but I mean, even with the Bills, I don't think you could say they have two guys that are, potential number wide receiver ones. Like I think Mike Williams and Keenan Allen could both be potentially wide receiver ones. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and then you also have Austin Eckler, who's when it comes to being a receiving back, he's elite. He's one of the best at it in the league. So,
he is the best.
Yeah, so a guy that can catch like that, and then you got Josh Palmer too, who's a young ascending player that I like, and he's going to take over for Keenan Allen probably when he's gone because he's going to.
So he's got a consistent long term. Looks like he will have a pretty decent set of tools.
Yeah, he's got a deep vertical threat in Jalen Guyton too. Gerald Everett they just signed, who I like. Donald Parham, who's was he 7'8"? The guy is just massive. Good. So yeah, Justin Herbert, not not as good with the rushing, like you said, Trev. So that's the thing that separates Allen and puts him ahead at 1. But he's going to make up for it when he's passing the ball because he's pretty damn good throwing it downfield. So now we move on to Patrick Mahomes, who is our quarterback 3 in consensus. You guys both have him at 3. I have him at 5. So when time comes, I guess I need to explain myself. But why do you guys have Patrick Mahomes at number 3?
I just don't think we've seen a lot. Sorry. I just don't think we've seen a lot of quarterbacks do what he's capable of doing. He doesn't have the weapons this year, but as far as for a dynasty ranking, I would still take him over some of the names we're about to get into. So
yeah,
I would take Allen or Herbert over him. Or I would take Allen and Herbert over him, but I wouldn't take some of the later guys now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Trev. I was going to say something really similar of just like his arm talent and like the stuff that he's done in the NFL, the success he's had with his team, the fantasy performances he's put up. Like he has just that proven track record where I really can't drop him out of the top 3, even though his weapons are not as good this year. I mean, obviously that is a big hit, losing Tyreek Hill, like his best receiving weapon next to Travis Kelce over the past couple of years.
And Kelsey's another year older.
Yeah, and Kelce getting a year older. So, I mean, I am skeptical of what that situation is going to turn out like. You know, they replaced Tyreek Hill with a combination of Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Sky Moore, and we'll see how that works out for them. But like, yeah, I mean, it's just I can't like take him out of the top 3 until like I actually see him be less than a top 3.
He would have to perform very poorly for me to think he's top 10.
So maybe we'll be wrong. You know, I think that's what you're kind of predicting here, Brendan. Is
yeah, for me, it's not so much as Patrick Mahomes is going to be way worse. It's just that I like some of the options that I have ranked ahead of him more. It definitely doesn't help losing Tyreek Hill, but just also from a dynasty outlook. Travis Kelce, we don't know how much longer he's going to be playing. He's getting up there in age. This could be his last great season, and then he might fall off after. So that's another reason why I don't like him. I'm also lower on Juju Smith-Schuster because the knee injury really scares me. I think you're just going to have to worry about him being healthy for the rest of his career, so I don't like that. He can run the ball, but he doesn't get rushing touchdowns like Allen and Herbert do. And he doesn't run all that much. So, yeah, it's more so just me liking the other guys more. I do like Patrick Mahomes, but just with him losing his weapons, it's a little bit tougher for me to take him where he's going.
Totally get it.
I can definitely see it. I just think Patrick Mahomes is such a safe pick. You know, and so like to me, like, you know, if I'm in a dynasty startup draft, I'm definitely going to go with the upside of Allen and Herbert first. But then, like, you know, if I'm going to use my first round super flex pick on a quarterback, I'm 103. Like, I just can't pass up like the safety of Patrick Mahomes.
Agreed.
For like, you know, a hope that some of these other guys we're about to talk about like kind of continues to ascend. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I don't like Patrick Mahomes as much is because this guy, Lamar Jackson, man, when he's on the field, he's special. All right, and that's there's no bias here. So Lamar Jackson.
I just want to talk about Marcus Mariota. So.
Yeah, so Lamar Jackson comes in at number 4 for us. I've got him at 3. Sam, you have him at 5, and Trev, you have him at 4.
Yes.
That's about right.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson he's special, man. When it comes to running the ball, he's the only guy that can do what he does on that football field. And his floor, just from the rushing value that he adds, plus he's still young too. He's 25 years old. And you know, I think with the weapons he has, listen, people are going to say, oh, he doesn't have receivers. He doesn't need that much receiving help. You know, that's not what Baltimore wants to do. They've got Mark Andrews, they've got Rashad Bateman, and then they got a bunch of other guys that'll group up for 500, 600, 700 yards. And that's what Baltimore wants, because they've also got J.K. Dobbins, who not known for being a receiving back, but he can do it. Wasn't his, go-to part of his game in Ohio State, but he can do it. He's shown he can do it. And yeah, it's more so just the rushing. It's what really sets him apart. He's elite. He's one of one. Even like Kyler Murray, you're not going to get anything close to what Lamar Jackson does with Kyler Murray. So that's why I think he's number 3, and he's going to get his contract taken care of. Don't let that scare you off. They're going to get it done. Maybe not this year, but next year he's going to get a crap ton of money if they don't get it done this year.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Sam, Brendan, if he gets the contract right now, does your rank change at all?
No.
No, I don't think there's any thought in my mind that contract doesn't get done. So
yeah, I don't think anybody's worried about it. I was just going to double check.
The Ravens have built their entire team around Lamar Jackson. It would be whatever the cost, they're going to pay it at the end of the day.
Huntley 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm the lowest on Lamar Jackson. The only reason that is for me is passing ability. I know that Brendan doesn't like it when we say that, but that is for me.
He's a running back.
He's a good passer. I put him number 5 overall, so it's very high. But to me, just the elite passing ability of Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, and then Joe Burrow, who I have at number 4. And then the weapons that those guys are throwing to, especially Joe Burrow, to me lifts it above Lamar Jackson. Then that's the only thing. Other than, I completely agree with everything you said as far as rushing ability, and from a fantasy perspective, he's proven he can be the number 1 overall fantasy scorer, right? So that didn't happen last year, didn't happen the year before that, but he's done it before. So there's definitely something, and I agree with what you're saying, Brendan, that he's probably walking into one of the best situations as far as a receiving perspective that he's had, even without Marquise Brown, because I think he's got an ascending Rashad Bateman. He's got a dominant Mark Andrews. I think, and he's got a group of guys who've proven they can be reliable. He's hopefully not going to be hurt this year. So,
don't forget about training camp hero Isaiah Likely.
Right.
Will also be catching passes from Lamar Jackson. So,
but that's the thing. The group of guys they have after Bateman and Andrews, I think you said it really well. It's like all of those guys are very capable. They're all very good at it. They're not, stars necessarily, but they're all very good NFL players.
In 2019, Lamar Jackson was getting it done on his MVP run with a rookie, Marquise Brown, Willie Snead, and Seth Roberts. So
it's better than that, right?
If you're telling me that's the receiving core he had when he won MVP, and this is a worse receiving core, I don't know what to tell you, because Seth Roberts, he's nothing. So, I like their guys that they have. They like him too. It's a fair criticism of him not being able to throw. He hasn't shown it. He was on his way to showing it. This was a guy, through the first 8 weeks, Lamar was top 5 in passing. He led the league in touchdown passes in 2019, so you've seen that he can, he's very efficient. He doesn't really turn the ball over either. He doesn't throw a whole lot of interceptions. He wasn't as clean. He was a little bit more sloppy last year with it, but that was just because he was also in more shootouts because the offense was bad. But he's known for being protected with the ball, so yeah. So Lamar Jackson, number 4, and then Joe Burrow at number 5. Sam, me and you have him at 4, and then Trev, you've got him all the way down there at 7. So why do you hate Joe Burrow so much?
I don't hate Joe Burrow. I think it's questionable coaching. We don't really know how the pass and run game is going to work out. And one thing you talked about earlier with Lamar was how young he was. Joe Burrow's 25, so he wasn't an early declaree. He'll be 26 in either November or December. So he's great. I think he's got great weapons. I think the team's going to be overall better. But if your defense is really good and your run game is really good, your passing usually isn't quite as good. So I still think he's fantastic. I just don't think he's quite as good as you guys have him.
Yeah, that's fair. For me, putting him at number 4 is just the way I view his weapons as elite.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, you've got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, could be one of the best, probably the best young receiving core. I think that's fair to say. That
100% agree.
Yeah, the age and talent of those guys is going to persist, and they're going to have both of those guys for a while. I fully expect them to give T. Higgins a contract, and then Chase is going to be there. He's on his rookie deal still, so.
Yeah, let me defend myself with this too. Like I have him a little lower than y'all. Not that he's like low, but I have him lower than y'all. But I still have like basically every weapon around him high. So
yeah.
I don't know what that really says about me as a person, but it just is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like Chase and Higgins aren't going to be throwing the ball to themselves. So if you guys, and we talked about it before we started recording, but if you guys think that Chase and Higgins are both top 8 dynasty wide receivers, then who's going to be throwing them the ball for their 12 to 1,400 yard seasons you expect? So.
Yeah, and then also you can't be that negligent of a head coach to see what your offense can do and then say, no, we're still going to run the ball instead of pass it, even though we could have an elite one-of-one passing offense in the NFL. So
Mixon really showed himself as good, though. I mean, that run game was excellent with Mixon at the helm.
He was good, but it's also another thing where you look at a team and then what they do during the regular season, whether it's run the ball heavy or pass heavy, and you say, did that work for the team? And if you see a team go 13-4, 12-5, and they had a really good season running the crap out of the ball, you go, okay, they're probably going to do it again because it worked. The Bengals were 10-7. It wasn't like they were this dominant team the entire year. They managed to get into the playoffs, but it wasn't particularly close. Everyone around them in the division was within 1 game, 2 games. So the division's going to be better. It's going to be more competitive. They're going to have to throw more. The AFC has gotten better itself. So they're going to need to pass more to win the AFC and to win games because it's the arms race in the AFC now with all the additions in free agency this past offseason. So that's just the reason why I think that they're going to be a lot better. So. And then now we've got Kyler Murray coming in at number 6. Sam, me and you, once again in sync. We got him at 6. And then Trev, you are higher on him. You got him at 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's Lamar Jackson light. So I have Lamar at 4 and I have Kyler at 5. I think that's the closest quarterback we have to Lamar's athleticism overall. And I do think he has better weapons, but I think Lamar is better on the ground and through the air. So it's just like, just low.
I think the only reason you have him 1 spot higher is because you have Joe Burrow so low.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think
we'd probably
Tyler and Dak, you'd be right with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Kyler you said it pretty well, Lamar Jackson light. He's got the weapons. He's been a little bit streaky in the back half of the year. He's had very strong starts.
Extremely streaky in the back half of the year.
Yeah.
Consistently extremely streaky in the back half of the year.
Say his coaching is about on par with Burrow's. Zach Taylor, Cliff Kingsbury, they're both middling head coaches.
Yeah, so, it's bad.
You like the talent of Murray. His rushing upside is good. Nothing too much more to say about him. And then now, once again, Sam, me and you, lockstep. 7 for Dak Prescott, and then you have him at 6, Trev. So a little higher on him.
Like Sam said, I have Burrow down at 7. So for me,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Dak has a better rushing upside than Burrow that we're talking about. So I guess if we're looking at overall rankings, I have a rusher, and then I have like Herbert Mahomes, and then I got Lamar, Kyler, and Dak before Burrow. So like Burrow can run.
Really
no doubt
highly
about
value the rushing upside then.
Absolutely. I think Dak is the kind of quarterback the same as Kyler Lamar that'll get it done on the ground before things fall off. Where Burrow, the little bit we did see on the ground, he got hurt. So like how fast he is to return to that, I don't know. But he's got a better team overall around him. I'd be I would not be surprised at all if he finishes higher than 7 the next 2, 3, 4 years. But that's where I have him just based on watching him last year.
Yeah, so you're going to be under the assumption that he's going to run for more touchdowns, like they said they've wanted to get him back to doing.
Oh yeah, Dak. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I believe he had 2 rushing touchdowns after he came back. It was the ACL that he tore his ACL, and then he came back. Yeah, Dak.
He broke his ankle, right?
Was it a broken ankle?
It was a leg injury of some sort.
Whatever the injury he had was in 2020.
Yeah, he broke something. I remember his foot being twisted around.
Yeah. So after he came back, didn't really run the ball as much. They've come out this offseason, said that they want to get Dak running the ball more into the end zone. So that's kind of what you're banking on there. I'm just a little bit more worried about his passing weapons. I know, Sam, you love CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, but I mean, after that, it's definitely limited, right? I mean, I think Michael Gallup is a great contested catch guy, but I don't think he's like necessarily like an amazing wide receiver outside of that. Like, I think Jalen Tolbert could be very good, and he was certainly like the best wide receiver in FCS this past year. But given that was FCS, so we'll see what happens when he goes up against like NFL level DBs. It's still like Dak for me. When I'm in a dynasty startup draft, Dak is like the last like quarterback I want to get before I'm going to start waiting for a second or a third round quarterback. So if I'm in the first round, it's these first 7 guys. If they fall to me with my first round pick, I'm going to take one of them in a super flex. But after Dak, I usually try to, I probably won't even take some of these next guys we're going to talk about and go for, somebody closer to the back end of our top 12.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I agree with you for the first 7 guys because you know what you're going to get out of these guys.
100%. We all agree.
I think we're all saying it's a tier break. Yeah, essentially. Yeah. And I think we all probably have a different guy that we're targeting after that tier break, and we can maybe talk about that after we get through the rest of these guys. Yeah.
I don't think we need to talk about that.
Yeah, well,
the guy you used to be targeting, and maybe not anymore.
Yeah, I'm not trying to target this guy. So
the first 7 guys, you know what you're getting out of them. This next guy, you don't know anything that you're getting, and that's Trey Lance.
Yeah.
So Trey Lance comes in at number 8 for us. I've got him at 11. You guys both have him at 9. For me, I'm just more hesitant taking a guy in the wherever he's going, back of the first, start of the second, wherever you get him. That's right around the range, depending on your leagues. And I don't want to take a guy that in the first or second that has played 1.5 years of college football in the past like 5-6 years. That's the only football he's really played. So it's scary. It's a scary pick. I think he's going to be great with the rushing upside that he has. Throws a mean deep ball, but it's just a matter of can he put it together against NFL starting talent with I think it's the perfect place to be for him in Shanahan's offense. So that's a good thing for him.
Place,
yeah. So if it weren't for that, he'd be much lower, and I'm still the lowest on him. He's got great weapons: Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. Like I said, the rushing scheme that Shanahan has that plays into the factor for him. So I like him, but I'm worried.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like, to be honest with you, all 3 of us are actually lower than what is probably consensus. I don't know where consensus is on them off the top of my head. If one of y'all want to find it real quick, but you're lower than I am, but I'm scared of him too. I think for fantasy purposes, especially this next year, I think he's gold. Not gonna lie, I think he's a solid pick for redraft and maybe even for keeper. But when we're talking about dynasty, I haven't seen him do it, and until I see him do it, it's all hype. So we haven't really gotten into it, but we talk about Fields and we talk about T-Law and the guys from the same draft class. Lance is the highest. He's the only one we haven't seen.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I actually think if anything, we're a little bit higher than Dynasty Superflex ADP for sleeper.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a combination of, like, when I compare to the other guys I'm looking at here, it's a combination of age, team situation, and rushing ability. I mean, I agree. We haven't really, and I think the rushing ability will translate. Like, I don't think that there's really like much to say that his rushing ability like can't translate to the NFL. I do think like the passing is a big question mark, and that's definitely something I'm concerned about. Like, he hasn't looked amazing in preseason. And so, I mean, sure, he was like didn't throw any interceptions in college, threw for 2,800 yards and 28 touchdowns, but that was in FCS. Like, so it's hard to really know how well that's going to translate. But the fact that he, rushed for over 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns that's the upside that we're all like looking at right here. So
everybody wants that.
And in the Shanahan offense, it's just like he could very easily. The thing is, we've seen quarterbacks without great passing ability be top 5 fantasy assets. Or, one of the guys we're about to talk about is a great example, Jalen Hurts. And Trey Lance has better draft capital. I think he has better rushing upside than Jalen Hurts in the offense that he's in. So that's why we have him where he is.
Yeah. Yeah. So we all agree Trey Lance has an extremely high ceiling. I would argue that the next person that we're about to talk about has a ceiling that is unlimited, and that is Russell Wilson. We all have him at 10. He comes in at number 9. So I love Russ. I think Russ is definitely a guy that I'm targeting in a lot of my redraft leagues this year, and
Dynasty too for me.
And Dynasty too.
Yeah, Russ is not old. He's still pretty young.
Yeah, I believe 33 years old. 33 or 34.
I thought it was 32. Shit.
I could.
Is he 33?
I think he's
He's 33.
Yeah.
He's 33, and he'll be 34 in a couple months.
Yeah. So.
Even still, that's young.
No, listen, he's still
Brady playing it till 46 or something.
Yeah, he's in
53.
the back of his prime right now. So, I love the weapons he has around him. Courtland Sutton, one of my favorite players to get this year. Very high on him. He's got Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. Yeah, I know, me, big Courtland Sutton guy here. In case you didn't know.
I'm big on Joe Mixon if he counts for anything.
Yeah. So, you got Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler.
I meant Javonte. God damn it.
Javonte, yeah.
Nobody wanted to call me on that.
Javonte Williams.
I didn't know what you said.
I said I'm big on Mixon. I meant Javonte.
Yeah.
I'm big on Javonte.
I know you're big on all the Bengals players, but you hate Joe Burrow. We get it. No, it's all right.
Yes, yeah.
Sounds about right.
He admitted to it.
Yeah. For Alberto. Fuck Alberto.
Yeah. So Liz, another guy I love, Greg Dulcich. You got Alberto there. You've got this is going to be, and then the offensive line too. The Denver Broncos have a really good offensive line. The whole team is great.
The whole team.
The
whole team is
a
fantastic.
team that I think everybody has agreed is a quarterback away from competing for the past couple of years. So it's going to be really exciting to see what they do with Russ.
Yeah.
100%. They traded their backup quarterback basically, even though he was the starter, but they traded their backup quarterback and their tight end. So like, sucks that you don't really have like the best tight end, but like every other part of the game, you're great at. Your top at least 6 or 7 in the NFL at every position. Like they're going to be great.
Even when Fant was there, Alberto was competing for snaps with Fant, and they filled in with a great prospect with Greg Dulcich. So I mean, I don't think they got significantly 100%. Weaker there. And God, I mean, Drew Lock was competing for the starting role last year, and he couldn't even beat out Geno Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith week 1.
It's like, I mean, that's how bad their situation was. Yep. They had. God.
Yeah.
So,
hey, hold on. I just got to throw this in. So we skipped news, which I don't blame us, but like Geno was named the starter. Lock in 2 games. He was 24 of 39 for 273, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2 sacks, QBR of 76.1. I wrote that down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's preseason. You're playing against the 2s, bro.
Mm-hmm.
76 QBR.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, listen, we don't have to go back far to look at the last two superstar quarterbacks that were traded away or went to a different location because two guys
Absolutely.
that did it were Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford, and last time I checked, the Rams and the Bucks both won the last two Super Bowls. So
Yeah.
That's
if
about
you
right.
think that the Broncos aren't going to be good this year, I don't know what to tell you because this is a
Well, they
team
did it
that
before. Did it
yeah,
before with
they did it
Manning.
with Peyton Manning too. Yeah,
Yeah.
same team did it. So this is a team that's going to be really good. They also have to play the AFC West. They have to play the Raiders. They to play the Chargers, the Chiefs twice.
Chargers, yeah.
That's six
Yeah, and
shootouts.
that's exactly. That's just good news for us as
And
far from a fantasy perspective,
the
right?
NFC West. So you have to play the Rams, the 49ers,
Mm-hmm.
the Cardinals. So this team is going to have to get into shootouts. Russ is going to have to win them games. And I just don't
Javante,
he's
Melvin Gordon.
yeah, he's been a top 10 quarterback every single year of his career aside from last season and his rookie year. So,
Dude,
and
just that.
last year he had the finger problem, and he came back way too quickly for that. So I'm fully expecting him to be way better this year. So love everything that Denver's doing. Can't wait to watch them this year.
Can we
So
talk about how good that did for his ADP? Because, like, in all reality, like, people aren't drafting him like he's a top 10. They're drafting him like he's a top 15. And, like,
yeah,
the dude's amazing.
yeah,
And he went to a better team that's going to use him better than he was used. But because he played poorly at the end of the year, like, even in Dynasty, people are not drafting him like he's a top 10 quarterback.
yeah, yep. So now let's move on to our number 10 quarterback. We've got Jalen Hurts. And this is a guy that I'm a lot higher on. I've got him at 8, and then Sam and Trev, you both have him at 12. So
Yeah, you're the reason he's 10, so go ahead, bud.
yeah, I'm the reason that he's still up here in the top 12 of our rankings. Listen, the more I've gone on this season and looked at the Eagles, this is going to be a good
The
team.
more he became blind. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, go
listen, say what you want. This is going to be a good team. All right.
ahead.
I love AJ Brown. They went out, traded draft night for AJ Brown to be that clear number one wide receiver because they couldn't draft a receiver for shit. So they said, listen,
Mm-hmm.
let's get the guaranteed guy. They got him. They've also got Devontae Smith, who's a really good two. I don't think he was going to be your number one. He's a little bit too small for that. He's a really great number two, but just not a number one guy. So you've got a really amazing number one and two pair now. Dallas Goedert's there. This is, in my opinion, the best offensive line. Just if you look at the starters they have, and then they've got like four guys behind them as backups that are like starting level depth. Like you could look at like a team like the Jaguars or the Panthers or any other bad offensive line, the Giants. You could take the entire backup for the Eagles. They're probably better than those guys. So I love this team the way I look at them. This is a team that I expect to win that division. And I think they're also for a dynasty outlook. I think the thing that you guys are more worried about is uncertainty with his future. Is he
Yeah.
going to be there after this year? The Eagles aren't going to be a bad team. I know they've got a lot of picks, but I think they have the Dolphins pick and the Saints pick, I believe. I don't know exactly, but I don't know whose picks they have, but the teams that they have the picks for, they're not going to be terrible teams that are going to be in the bottom 5. So they're not going to be drafting in the top 10 this year. So if they trade to get a quarterback,
There we
might
go. I was gonna
trade
say
it.
we've never seen somebody trade 2 firsts, like for an early first.
They could do that, but I also see the way I just see it. I think this team's going to be good enough to where Jalen Hurts will look good enough to get another year as a team. They're going to win the division. They might make a run. If they make a run in the playoffs too, Jalen Hurts is basically locked in for next year. I really don't see them going out unless it's another blockbuster trade for a quarterback. But even then, you're going to have teams that are going to need a quarterback next year, and Jalen Hurts will be there. So I'm not too worried. He's going to be a starter regardless next year, whether it's with the Eagles.
Don't disagree. I don't disagree. He's going to be a starter somewhere. But situations change immensely when you're talking about switching from a team to a team, like Russell Wilson in Seattle versus Russell Wilson in Denver. So let me just ask you, Sam, because you're on par with me as far as his ranking goes. How long do you think he's a starter for the Eagles, and how long do you think he's a starter in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, To be
Put me
honest,
on the spot.
I think I just disagree with how it's going to play out this year. Like, I don't think he's a good enough quarterback to get the Eagles to where you're saying. I don't think he's good enough to make a run in the playoffs. I don't think he can win games. I don't think he could be the reason the Eagles win games. I think he has rushing ability to win some games, but I don't think he can be the reason they make a big playoff run. And so, to me, I don't think he lasts past this year with the Eagles. I think they've put a good team together, but I think, with their 2 picks in the first, it's going to be too tempting to trade up for a better passer. And it's just, and maybe if he had first round draft capital, that would be a different story. But just with being somebody they picked in the 3rd round, I think he'll be replaced. I feel similarly about Davis Mills, the quarterback of my team, the Houston Texans. I think like even if Davis Mills has like a top 15 quarterback season, which is like probably what you're going to see from Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm not saying fantasy, like you'll probably see a top 5 to 10 fantasy performance from Jalen Hurts. Absolutely. 100%. But like, as far as in the NFL, he's probably a top 15, maybe top 20 quarterback. Even if Davis Mills does that, I just don't think the Texans can pass up some guys that are coming up in the 23 class just because he doesn't have draft capital. So
yeah,
that's where I stand.
And I'm not saying that he's going to make some giant leap like Lamar Jackson made from his rookie year to his MVP year. I just think that with the addition of A.J. Brown's an amazing receiver who can make his quarterback look better. Look at Tannehill. Look at how. He could. So that's just the way I see it. Plus, listen, you talk about this team not making it to the playoffs. That defense too. It's an amazing team.
Defense is unbelievable.
The team itself is going to be great. So I think the way that Jalen Hurts is going to look, I think he's going to get another shot this year. And if not, he's going to go somewhere else as a starter. And I think I don't think he's going to be on one of the bottom teams. It's just the way I view it. Yeah. We're at the start of the 2022 season. I definitely think that
upside's there.
Yeah.
It's just the uncertainty is why I don't rank low.
Well, we talk about the difference between fantasy and NFL, but really with Hurts, it comes down to just that. Like we talk about that with a bunch of different players, but Hurts for fantasy is easily top 3 every year. Like he's so good in fantasy, but for the NFL, is he good enough to continue starting? I mean, Jameis Winston was doing fantastic for fantasy, throwing 3 interceptions a game, but now he's bottom 5 of the top 32. So like, I don't know, man. I like Hurts. I like Hurts as a redraft for this year. I like him as keeper, but for dynasty purposes, I mean, I'm not saying he's outside of the top 15, but maybe. But
I'm just worried that he's headed more towards Marcus Mariota than he is towards Lamar Jackson.
Exactly. I'm worried about his overall outcome. I would be worried about taking him where he's going in startups.
And I think he's going to be coasting that line right down the middle. So that's where I've got him.
Yeah, so. In which case, I think he probably is definitely. Anyways.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on to someone way less controversial. We've got Deshaun Watson at number 11. I've got him at 9. Sam, you have him at 15, and Trev, you've got him at 8.
Look, I know we talked about this before, but let me just say,
Trev, you love Deshaun Watson, so let's. I want to hear what you have to say about him.
Yeah,
Trev.
I am just
top of your I
am disgusted that I am the top on him. Like, all right, here's the facts though. Like, hear me out. He's top. What's his rank overall? What's consensus? I can't see it from my screen here.
It's tough to tell because of his suspension.
I mean, let's be real. Like, if you take the suspension out of it, if he's still playing on the Texans, he's top 5 dynasty pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you take everything that happened over the past couple years out, right?
That's what I was going to say. So I have him personally ranked number 8. We haven't seen him in a while, and that's really the only reason he's that low. It sucks the NFL didn't give him more of a suspension. Absolutely. I'm on that side of it. But, like, reality is reality. And reality is he's going to be good even on a run-first team. So, like, I talked earlier about how much I value running quarterbacks. I've got Kyler, then Dak, then Burrow, and then, unfortunately, I have Watson. Like, I have him highly ranked, but it's purely because of how good of a quarterback he is and his rushing ability. Like, he is that good.
Yeah.
I just hate to say it.
I've got him pretty low at 15. That's kind of more my outlook on like where I would take him. So that's more personally just me wanting to stay away from having him on my team. But I mean, just to speak to what the downside is, the downside is that I mean, all of this drama, not playing for 2 years, etc., leads to him not being focused. Not being bought into the game and not being the same Deshaun Watson that we saw before.
Yep.
And so, while he still has the physical skills, we all know that as a quarterback, it takes more than that. It takes leadership ability, it takes mental ability. And so, I just don't believe he has those things anymore. So that's why I have
let me say this too. 100%. Let me say this too. Where he's going in startups, in Superflex at least, which is what we mostly dive into, but where he's going in startup Superflex, I would absolutely never take him because he's going mid-second now. Is that right? Like, if I'm not mistaken, that's
it's usually
ridiculous.
Like if you don't take a quarterback and you take Chase or Jefferson or Taylor, you're going to try to get Watson on the back end or something.
Yeah.
Or get Watson as your QB2 after Josh Allen or
it's still exactly.
That's what I've seen.
It's still. Like, I have him ranked high. Excuse me. I have him ranked highly for dynasty purposes, but there's zero chance I take him this high. Like, I'm not taking him in the top 15 quarterbacks because I don't want to have to deal with that first bit of this year and then what if on the coming up the end of the year. And I'm not taking him that high. I think his upside is way past top 10. Like, he's definitely top 3 consideration if he plays to his abilities.
Yeah.
Can we not talk about him anymore?
Yeah, we can move on. We can move on to a guy where, despite my best efforts, he's still in our top 12. So we're talking about Trevor Lawrence to wrap up our top 12 quarterbacks here. I've got him at 17. Trev, you have him at 11, and Sam, you have him at 8. So I guess I got a little bit more explaining to do, but if you guys want to talk about why Trevor Lawrence is going to be so good, then go ahead.
For me, Trevor Lawrence, I talked about who I take after that tier break for the top 7. For me, it's Trevor Lawrence. And especially the fact that his ADP is so much lower than these other guys. I love taking Trevor Lawrence. And so, would I take Trevor Lawrence like after Dak Prescott before these other quarterbacks? Like, no, but I'm not going to draft the other quarterbacks. I'm going to wait for Trevor Lawrence. So I'm just saying, in my personal rankings, I do think he is the 8th best dynasty quarterback, but I'm not going to take him 8th off the board. So I just want to make that clear, But to me, it's like I think last year, I do not think you can count anything you saw last year against Trevor Lawrence. He was in possibly one of the worst situations any quarterback has ever been thrown into, with Urban Meyer.
Next to Fields.
Yeah, the Bears are going to try they're going to try and one up the Jaguars last year.
They are. So we'll see what happens
this
year.
Just ahead of Fields.
Yeah.
But
just ahead.
Yeah, that's fair. But
I don't know. Maybe Matt Eberflus might not be kicking people in practice.
Yeah, that's true.
No, he kicked a kicker. So, I don't know.
Hey, Trevor Lawrence has already looked good in preseason, though. I think he's looked great in preseason. I think they went out and got weapons for him. They're not necessarily the big name weapons, but I think that they can get some more of those big name guys.
I don't know. Dude, Kirk is top 5 paid wide receiper.
Yeah.
So.
He is.
Well, I don't think he's top 5 paid anymore after all these guys got their
that's
money.
That's true. So. He was at one point.
He was
at
one
not?
point.
But, I thought he was. I thought he was number 2.
He set the market for all of the actual top 5 receivers to get paid like top 5 receivers.
So to me, I still believe that Trevor Lawrence is that generational prospect. He's that best quarterback we've seen since Andrew Luck. I believe that he is that guy, and I'm willing to take a bet on him. I've done it. I put my money where my mouth is. I have Trevor Lawrence in a lot of leagues, so that's
Yeah, I mean,
I have him right about where we have consensus, and I gotta say, I'm kind of on the in between. Obviously, but I'm not sure. But I think the potential's there. So, you wanna talk some shit about him?
Yeah, it's not so much. I mean, it is a disliking of Trevor Lawrence. I don't hate the guy. I don't want him to fail. But it's just sometimes you have to go on the eye test. It's not all about stats and situation. listen, there's been plenty of quarterbacks that have been in bad situations and they've looked good. So, it was his rookie season. It was tough. But, I mean, I just didn't see almost anything that I liked on tape. It's watching his play. It wasn't inspiring at all. Even like when you look at Fields and Davis, like Davis Mills, he was in a terrible situation last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough because I don't like the weapons either as much. I like Kirk, but after that you've got Chenault, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, Evan Ingram.
Well, you've also got ETN. Like,
yeah,
Robinson projects to be the one, strangely enough. So ETN may be playing a lot of his gadgets that we've been
I
seeing.
also I have a tough time
with his gameplay.
figuring the running back situation there and how they're going to use ETN, and it's different staff from the people that
Yep. So first round doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that you have a first round. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean that guy.
It's tough. It's tough. We'll see. I hope he does better. It's going to be way more interesting to watch Jaguars games if he's better. So I don't really 100%. See. I like guys more. I'd rather take some of these guys. Just to talk. So after 12, our top 20 is Tua Tagovailoa, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Mac Jones, and Tom Brady as our top 20. So,
all right, I don't know about you guys. There's two guys I want to talk about, but I'm gonna go last. So
yeah,
you guys go ahead.
We're not going to talk about all these guys, and not too much in depth. We just want to talk about some of the younger guys that are more important to Dynasty. We're not really going to talk about the Staffords or the Rodgers or the Bradys. They're good players. Draft them where you need to if you're doing win now. But we want to talk about guys like Tua and Fields. So Tua is our quarterback 13, and he got Tyreek Hill. He's got Jalen Waddle. He's got Gesicki. He's got Mike McDaniel coming in.
Cedric Wilson.
Yeah, the offense it's going to be a way better situation for him than last year. We'll see.
And I don't believe in him at all.
Yeah. It's tough, because you look at the tape and it's a little bit of the same of Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it hasn't been too inspiring, but I just like the weapons better. So I think,
dude, I've been the biggest believer in Tua, and you guys have seen it firsthand all offseason. I've been buying Tua, and then this whole preseason he's been overthrowing targets and underthrowing targets, and I have him the lowest out of us, and I might need to go lower. Like, that hurts my feelings because I still have him in a bunch of dynasty leagues, but like, I don't think I believe anymore, man. It's rough stuff.
Yeah, your biggest hope with Tua is that he goes back to having some of that rushing upside he had in Alabama, because that's what's really gonna help him become way more fantasy relevant. And adding guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who are freaks after the catch, along with being in Mike McDaniel's system. So
exactly. If they can bail him out of things, then I'm fine. But that's, for me, if you're a Tua owner, this is my personal opinion, but if you're a Tua owner, you hold him this year because you're not going to get what you think you should get. So you hold him this year and you watch him closely. And if it's his wide receivers bailing him out of shit, you sell him for what you can get him for.
Yeah. Anything on Tua, Sam?
No.
Yeah.
Y'all said it.
All right. Justin Fields, talk about real quick. Trev, I know me and you, we were big Justin Field guys coming out of the draft.
Number one quarterback.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
With the rushing upside, I had him there. I still have hope for him. Sam, you clearly don't, having him ranked at 22. I have hope that he can claw his way out of this terrible situation just with purely on his rushing upside. And you've seen bad moments, more specifically off the offensive line. That offensive line is going to get him killed this year.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It got worse.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Mm-hmm. So
I just think too often we've seen that it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm a firm believer that landing spot matters more than almost anything else for quarterback development and whether or not a quarterback's going to be good long term. And I just think, unfortunately, and I know I just said for Trevor Lawrence that I believe that he's in a good situation, but I think that in Jacksonville they've made clear decisions to support Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. that they haven't made in Chicago. So that's
Very fair.
Chicago showing the exact opposite. I mean,
Yeah.
you're right. It's not even just that Jacksonville is saying we want to support you. Chicago is saying like, good luck. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure that you have a terrible game. Like,
it seems like they've done pretty much nothing.
So.
Yeah, for me, the only thing that sets Justin Fields apart is his ceiling, and that's why I have him so high. Is because if I'm taking a quarterback this far back outside of the top 12 and I'm passing on these older guys and I want to take one of the younger guys, I'm going to take Fields because I think his ceiling is higher. If he can put it together, then he really can be that top 10 guy, where I don't see Trevor Lawrence being that top 10 guy, especially right away. Maybe in a couple years he can be if his situation is steadily improving year after year. Justin Fields with the rushing, he can be good.
I will say that when you're talking about I'm taking the younger guy that has the upside ability, in my personal opinion, if we're doing a startup today, I'm taking the older guys that we have ranked lower, the Cousins, the Carrs, the Bradys, over Fields, strictly because of what I have seen and what I haven't seen. So, I'll take the guys that have 1 or 2 years left in them versus Fields, who I think is the talent, but just doesn't have the team.
I think the 23, 24, 25 quarterback classes are better than at least this past year.
So. The 23 for sure. And we haven't really gotten into it, but the 23 is fucking BA.
Yeah. So, and then just Zach Wilson, another year 2 guy who I'm not crazy about. We got him 22, 17, and 22. Hasn't really shown much, but good weapons. I think the Jets, we talk about building up your quarterback. I think the Jets are the best example of
that's why I have Zach Wilson at 17.
Yeah.
Is just because I think that I really like their wide receivers. I really like Elijah Moore, Berrios, and Garrett Wilson. I think that's a very good 3 wide receiver set. So, I
their
think he has
O-line before
potential.
Injury was like, sorry to interrupt. Their O-line before injury was like top 5. After injury's been like top 10 still. Like,
they got Dwayne Brown to come in after they lost Mekhi Becton. So, yeah,
so
I mean,
we'll see if the decision making improves.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to, but I just think of all of these year 2 situations,
we've seen preseason. Best. Well, we've seen preseason. Flacco's playing better than him, and like Flacco's obviously
Flacco has been in the league for like 20 years.
Well, so, Flacco's he's an elite
Flacco
Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, but Flacco preseason. I mean, I don't think that's a fair comparison at all.
No,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a fair comparison, but I'm saying that when your backup plays better than you playing against the same competition.
Yeah, but he's a 20-year vet compared to a second-year rookie.
And it's preseason, but he's playing better.
I bet Jimmy G would look better than Trey Lance. I bet.
Yeah, I think just to save us from talking about Joe,
Gino's playing better than Drew
Lock. All right, to stop us from talking about Joe Flacco and Geno Smith, let's just talk about Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis real quick, all right? Because we're not doing that here, all right? We're going to talk about Kenny Pickett.
Let's not waste our valuable time on that conversation.
Yeah, so Kenny Pickett coming in, he's 21, 23 for us. He's our quarterback 24. Kenny Pickett is in a quarterback battle with Mitchell Trubisky right now. Mitchell Trubisky hasn't looked great. Kenny Pickett is getting better and better.
Absolutely.
Good weapons, terrible offensive line. I don't think there's anything particularly special about Kenny Pickett. I
think he's more special than Trubisky.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's what we're looking at is like, okay, so the difference between, we're saying Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, but the difference is when do they come in? And I think when we're talking about one versus the other, it's a lot sooner. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially like if we include a third one, if we're talking about Ritter, my bad. If we're talking about Ritter, like 2 of the 3 guys are going to come in a lot earlier than the third. So that's really all it is for me is coming in mid-season, coming in early, or not coming in at all this year.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about Malik Willis real quick here, because we're done with the preseason now. We're recording this on Sunday, right after the third preseason game wrapped up for most teams. And I think out of all of these quarterbacks, Malik Willis has shown the most upside, like a little glimmer of upside when it comes to his rushing, his passing. He's got a very long way to go. Don't get me wrong. He checks out of reads very quickly. He just opts to run when the pocket breaks down. So long way to go, but no one expected him. Third round pick. We're not expecting him to start this year. He's going to sit behind Tannehill. If he's ready to play next year, he's going to come out. They're going to trade or release Tannehill. And if not, Tannehill's under contract another year. Malik Willis is going to sit another year, learn, and then probably get the start
that won't happen.
2 years after.
Nah, Tannehill's gone. Willing to bet you anybody
I
money
think
about.
Tannehill's cap hit is something like $14 million or $13 million the year after too. So it's.
He will choose to leave. I'm not saying that they will choose to. I'm saying he's gone. I don't think he's sticking around.
Yeah. So
I think Malik Willis could very easily be a better Jalen Hurts.
I like that. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah. That's
let me ask you a question.
Let's not talk too much
include
about
Ritter.
these back end quarterbacks so we get to the tight ends.
Totally agree, but we didn't talk about Ritter a lot. Y'all have anything on Ritter as far as what do you think of he coming in versus Mariota?
I don't think Ritter's ever going to play.
I think he'll.
I think he might play this year, but he'll be replaced in the draft. So
yeah, that's why I'm not really looking at him. Atlanta's going to be in that position to get a top quarterback next year. So
they're not going to play Ritter with C.J. Stroud. Or
yeah,
Bryce
and he'll probably just be a backup for him once they pick up a new guy. So I'm not
good backup.
Yep.
Good backup for Bryce Young.
Yeah.
We talked about this in the home league, but I just had to throw it out there as far as Ritter goes. Like, I love Atlanta, but I don't think we even drafted him with the thought that he could be the starter. We drafted him with the hopes that he would be a great backup to the next guy we draft. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I think we thought he's a steal where we got him, and he's going to be way better than like Josh Rosen or Bryant or all these other fucking nobodies we've had over the last 10 years. So when we're talking about a backup quarterback, round 3's excessive, but at the value, we wanted to see what we got in him so far. It's good, not great. I think by week 12 he comes in, and I think we see if we've got anything in him. And if we don't, he's the best backup in the league for the next 2 years.
Yeah, but he's not going to play his way in like Davis Mills did, where Davis Mills was basically if Tyrod Taylor didn't get hurt, Davis Mills would have not started as early as he did, and then they probably would have gotten number 1 overall pick, or maybe I don't know, depends. But
even if Mariota's bad, he's not coming in. Not until after the bye.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to everyone's favorite position in fantasy football, except for the kicker, the tight ends. And we are back. Let's get on to the tight end rankings. So at tight end, our number 1 dynasty tight end, we've got Mark Andrews. So Trev, me and you have him at 1. Sam, you hate Mark Andrews and have him at 2. So
classic.
Mark Andrews. It's very interesting because Sam, we'll spoil it here. You have Kyle Pitts at 1. Nothing wrong with that. It's definitely between these two guys because Kelsey's just way too old now. But the reason why I have Mark Andrews ahead of Kyle Pitts is because when people talk about having Kyle Pitts, they say, "Oh, you're gonna get the next Travis Kelce. You're gonna get 6'5", like 7-8 years plus of elite tight end dominance," and he is that good. But he's got things holding him back. Right now, he doesn't have a quarterback. It's going to be a bad offense. Next year, you are going to have a rookie quarterback, whether it be C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, or maybe a different guy. Maybe they don't get one of the top 2. So you're not going to know next year. And then what if that quarterback that they get busts? Then you're going to have to wait another year and maybe another year. So it's going to be between 2 to 4 years where you don't really know what's going on with Kyle Pitts. Whereas Mark Andrews, he's already in that stretch of elite dominance. He's been amazing for the last 2 years. He's on that run. He's still only 26 years old, and he's killing it right now. And he's got Lamar Jackson. Lamar's going to get a contract. I'm not worried about it. And guess what? If Lamar doesn't, the 0.001% chance he doesn't, Mark Andrews balled out with Tyler Huntley. So he's already showed.
Better than,
better than because he was getting extra hyper targeted. But And for people that are saying, oh, he got more targets when Lamar was gone and when Huntley was in, this is Lamar's favorite target. Lamar will constantly go to him in the end zone. He'll get more targets, maybe he'll be a PPR machine when Lamar's not there, but Lamar always looks to him number one, number two read in red zone situations. If Lamar's got to throw it up there, fuck it, Mark Andrews is out there somewhere. So that's why I love Mark Andrews. Definitely no homer bias in this one. So
Yeah, I think that's a good argument.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything you said, I can't really speak on homer bias. I have Pitts at 2, but Sam, you want to tell us why you got Pitts all the way so far ahead of Mark Andrews?
I mean, it's basically neck and neck. Like I think I could easily switch Andrews for Pitts based on y'all's argument. I mean, what I would say is, it's absolutely possible we haven't even seen the best of Pitts yet, right? And I'm not just saying
totally.
his situation. I'm saying skill. Like I think he is going to continue to develop skill wise even, and I think he could be like athletically and skill wise at tight end a better tight end than Kelsey or Andrews have been. He could be one of the best tight ends in NFL history, just like looking at his draft profile, looking at the skills he brings. They're going to build that offense around him. He's going to be the centerpiece of the Atlanta Falcons for, whatever this next phase of their franchise looks like. Yep. So, that's obviously, that's why you love Kyle Pitts, is he's 21 and all those things are true, and you're like, man, and it's exactly what you said. Wow, what if I could have Travis Kelce for the entire life of this Dynasty League, And I would say, in most cases too, the trade value for Kyle Pitts is going to be higher than Mark Andrews, People generally want to get Kyle Pitts more than Andrews. So, I think that helps a little bit as well as, even if you don't have him on your team, you're going to get a lot in return. And then, the only concern I'd say with Andrews is, the skill's not going to go away. The situation's not going to get worse. But as age goes on, the injury risk is going to increase, and so as he gets into that age 27, age 28, age 29 season, there's a possibility there's an injury and a big drop off or something like that. Like, that just happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. We've seen it with Ertz.
Yeah, exactly. Ertz is a great example, and so those are the only that's the only like red flags. But again, like it's very, very close. I think all of us would say that. So.
I will say this though, as far as the difference between Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts is, it's going to be easier to acquire Kyle Pitts in season, because we all expect him to do worse this year and maybe next year than his future. So if you're in a startup, especially, Mark Andrews, for his cost, is going to be a lot easier to acquire than Pitts, who you're going to have to get in the first round, maybe at the turn of the second. But like, you're going to have to get him early, and then you're not going to be able to do anything with him.
Yeah,
you're going to have to hold on to him for that future.
Yep. Yeah. So we got Andrews at 1, and then Pitts at 2, and then after that we've got the King, Travis Kelce, at 3. Trev, me and you both have him at 3. Sam, you've got him at 4. Completely understood. For me, the age, he's got one elite season left in him. That's going to be this year, and then after that, I think he'll have another good season. You're probably going to see some drop off, and I think it's still worth taking the dominance that Travis Kelce is going to be at 3 over these next couple guys that we're going to be talking about, just because of the difference that he brings compared to everyone else, and the high ceiling, high floor that he has. So that's the only reason why I've got Travis Kelce so high, even though he's, I believe, 33 or 34 years old.
Yeah, we've got him at 3 and 4, but I mean, that's the only reason he's not number 1 is just his age. I mean, that's the reality of it, is we expect a drop off, but he's still King Kelce. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think I really agree with what you said, Brendan. Kelce's last season of elite tight end is probably this year, but just to be like the devil advocate against myself, if we look at, for instance, Tony Gonzalez had 800 and 900 yard seasons until he was 37.
Yep.
So, Tony Gonzalez's last year with the Kansas City Chiefs, he had 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. But then he went to the Falcons and he had 6 to 8 touchdowns and 800 yards for 5 more seasons. So, it's 100. So, if if you want to say that you can still get Kelsey and have 5 years, it's possible. It's possible. Yeah. Whatever his contract with the Chiefs is up, he goes somewhere else and he continues to dominate for 3 to 5 more years. Now, Tony Gonzalez is probably the best ever NFL tight end at this point, So it's hard to, so who, that's certainly an outlier, right? Like you could say the same thing of like Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice also played in his late 30s, but no receiver's done that really since then. So that's kind of why I have Kelsey lower. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's probably going to be this season and maybe the next one. So I have Kittle higher. I have Kittle at 3.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, for me, I find it hard to believe that Kelsey isn't going to finish as a Chief. To me, yeah, I just think
I agree.
He's going to want to stay connected to Mahomes as quarterback. He'd probably come back for way less money, just to play with him as he gets later into his career. I don't know exactly what his contract situation is like, but yeah, I agree with everything you said, Sam.
And I actually think though that his best chance of continuing to be a tight end 1 for another 5 years would not be with the Chiefs. As great as the Chiefs offense are, I think they're going to have to start to prepare for a Kelsey-less future, at some point.
Yeah.
And so, whereas if he went and played for another team, they could just be like, hey, we have no other, that he could come in and be the number 1 target. I mean, it's kind of like what Tyreek Hill's doing now. He's going from, where he was kind of the number 2 target to Kelsey. In the Chiefs, and where they're bringing a ton of other wide receiver talent in to kind of prepare for the next stage, and then he goes to the Dolphins and he's the number 1 immediately, right? Yeah. So that's kind of my view on things. I can start us talking about Kittle a little bit. I have Kittle at 3. Really, the reason that I have Kittle, higher, again, it's primarily age. He's 28 versus 32, so primarily age. He's, I think, talent-wise, right up there with Kelsey. And I think that their offense is, on an upward trajectory. I know there's a lot of questions around Lance, but I think that they are, continuing to improve year over year in their offense. So I think, Kittle, I don't think, maybe some of the detractors might say for Kittle that the opposite is true. Okay, Lance is coming in. There's question marks around the offense. Debo's coming back. But I just think, as Shanahan continues to get the pieces that he wants, that offense is going to do well. So
Yeah, I mean, I have Kittle the lowest out of all of us. I have him at 5. And there's a couple main reasons why one is it's not because of age, because he's going to be younger than he's older than most of these guys that are below him, but he's still young. He's tight ends peak between age 26 to 30. So that's not really a problem for me. The biggest problem is, one, the uncertainty of Trey Lance. We don't know anything about it. But I think the even bigger thing for me is George Kittle is the best run blocking tight end in the NFL, and he loves to do it. He really does. When he talks about it, you can see the gleam in his eye. And that's also another reason why he gets injured way more than other tight ends that are more purely just pass catchers. So the big thing for Kittle for me is just injury concern, and I really can't see Kittle ever wrapping together a full season of tight end dominance. He's going to miss maybe 2 to 4 games each season, if not more. So that's the only reason why I'm more down on Kittle. Trev, do you have anything to say about?
No, not on Kittle. I mean, everything you said. Another piece about Kittle. Lance is coming in, but just to emphasize this point, he likes to throw bombs and he likes to run, and those things don't equate to passes to the tight end. So even though the coaching there is going to be get the ball to the best player, he's not the best player. Debo's the best player, in my opinion. So your number 1 target is a wide receiver. We've got Ayuk there as well, but he's only going to be the go-to guy when Debo's not there and when he has the availability from Lance.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so next up our number 5 tight end. Why don't you kick us off, Trev, and talk a little bit about Dalton Schultz?
I love Dalton Schultz. So people want to label him as unathletic. I disagree. I think he's going to do very well for the next several years in Dallas. What's the latest on his contract information? Does anybody have that handy?
Yeah, he got
Pretty
franchise
sure it's on
tag.
the tag.
He got
Yeah,
franchised,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. So that's one of the only things for me that goes against him. Dak is going to get it done, no doubt about it. Schultz is probably going to be his number 2 target, but even with all that, if he can't find an agreement in Dallas, his rank would go like super far down for me. But I think he stays in Dallas, and I think he's going to be the number 2 target for the foreseeable future behind CD.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what happened with Dalton Schultz last year, it was Michael Gallup going down, Amari Cooper being in and out of games, injured. CeeDee Lamb was really the only guy there. Dalton Schultz stepped up in a big way because they had no one else. And if you look at this year, it's the exact same thing. They're going into it with CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Tolbert, and then that's it. And then their running backs who they might get involved in the pass catching. So I really have Dalton Schultz primed for a big breakout year. I have him higher than you guys. I have him at 4. You have him at 5. But I know we all really like Dalton Schultz here collectively. We're higher on him. And yeah, Dalton Schultz, I'm not as scared because I do believe in the talent. He's not crazy athletic. He's not this spectacular guy, but he's just really consistent, and you know what you're going to get with him. And high floor guy who can give you those 1 to 2 touchdown weeks, especially in Dallas, because Dak really does like targeting him too. If you look back at last year, he was a guy that he really liked throwing to when he needed to.
Yeah. So that's my only concern with him going to another team is not talent, but just that Dak loves to throw to the tight end, And so I don't think wherever he ends up, he would be as heavily used.
Yeah, but I do see Dalton Schultz having an incredible year, and he's gonna get a bag.
Yeah, he'll get a big contract.
So
yeah,
and obviously we've seen tight ends that have gotten a massive contract, like Austin Hooper, go to the Browns and it hasn't worked out. Mm-hmm. But so we'll see. That's a discussion for a different day. But I'm not as worried. I think he's going to be involved wherever.
And Hunter Henry and Johnny, both of them,
were
worse.
Mm-hmm. So. Yep. And then next up, we got T.J. Hawkinson coming in at number 6 for us. T.J. Hawkinson's just that really consistent guy who I would say he's probably just a George Kittle light. I think that's the most accurate description for him. He's that guy who can block. He's the guy that'll get on most of the snaps. They'll want him in there. I'm just more concerned with the actual play on field of the offense and the quarterback.
Yeah, if T.J. Hawkinson was on any other team, I think I'd have him top 3 tight end. T.J. Hawkinson is just a beast, but he plays for the Detroit Lions. So
if T.J. Hawkinson was on the Bills, top 3 tight end for Dynasty.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So
I'd have him over Kittle for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just overall a really good guy that you're gonna see. You're gonna see low floors, especially this year, until they figure out what they're doing with quarterback. And listen, the Lions aren't really known for getting the quarterback right. They got Matthew Stafford, but everything else, around that. So they're just a team that they don't know what they're doing. And I'm just worried that T.J. Hawkinson's career is just going to be middling and wasted, and you're not going to see much. So
they brought in a lot of targets, Chark and Jameson Williams and somebody else that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but they brought in other guys to collect targets, but I still think he's their one at least for this next year. So there is at least that if you're picking him up, that it's him and then Swift and then a receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, and then next up we have Darren Waller. And Darren Waller is our 7th rated tight end. And I've got him the highest, which I'm kind of surprised about because I'm a little bit lower on Waller. But yeah, Darren Waller, think the biggest concern right now is he hasn't participated in training camp at all. So I think I might
Agent issues.
yeah, it's
Oh yeah, on Sleeper, his like tag where it would say his injury is agent change.
That's what it
yeah.
was. Agent change. Yeah.
Yeah, so we still need to see that. I mean, when Darren Waller plays, he was great. He was getting hyper targeted. I think that's the biggest problem
Yeah.
is you really just saw Derek Carr going play after play after play to Darren Waller. And that's definitely not going to be the case now with Devontae Adams there and Hunter Renfrow, who kind of emerged last year as a really solid number 2 wide receiver. So it's a little bit more mouths to feed now, and even looking at this now, I think I might want to move Waller down and move Hawkinson up because it's just kind of it's scary. Like just saying it out loud now, it's like, oh man, I don't know. Devontae Adams really good at football, so yeah.
So I've Waller the lowest at 8, and the reason for that is I'm pretty confident that we've already seen the best of Darren Waller. I don't think he's going to have a better season than what we've already seen. He's 29. I think he's past his peak. I think he'll have a couple more very good seasons. Obviously, that's why he's in the top 12 dynasty tight ends. But I don't think he goes anywhere else after he's done with the Raiders.
As far as like negative outcomes goes, skipping just a hair ahead with him, but it's Waller, and at least in my top 12, it's Goddard. Like, as far as negative outcomes, the rest of these guys in my top 12 skyrocket. Like, they have such a great outcome, possible 3, top 3 tight ends, but Waller has definitely the ability to be like a number 14 tight end on the year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So next up, we're going back to the young guys. We got the Muth, Pat Freiermuth.
The Muth. It's a Muth.
So we've got 9, 7, and 8 respectively as our rankings. I'm the lowest, and Sam, you're the highest on them. So I think for me, it's just another case, same as George Kittle. I'm just a little bit more scared on the quarterback situation. We saw Ben Roethlisberger, who had a absolute noodle arm going 2 yards down the field to Pat Freiermuth and really liking him in the red zone. So I think we're going to see negative touchdown regression for him this year. And I just don't know if he's going to be as involved. Everything I've seen so far in preseason and training camp has gotten me a little bit higher on the Muth as before in the offseason. I think Kenny Pickett is a little bit more of Ben Roethlisberger than we think. I think they kind of play a little similarly just from what we've seen in preseason. And I still think he's going to be good in my top 10, but just don't really see a high ceiling with Pat Freiermuth.
See, I think it's possible that we talk about the number 2 target if you're a tight end, unless you're Andrews or Kelsey. That's really where you want to be. He's like the number 2 on the team, maybe a Pitts too, my bad. But like he really has the ability. Let's say, especially in Dynasty, we're looking ahead a year. Like, let's say they're moving away from Johnson into a Pickens Muth role. Like, he could easily provide as the number 2 receiver for that team. Like, he's athletic enough to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest concern with Pat Freiermuth is if you look at the last several years, there's been a lot of fool's gold with Steelers tight ends. I think we all remember the Vance McDonald. I think a lot of people drafted him very high and were disappointed.
Yeah,
people drafted Jesse James high, were disappointed. I think people drafted Eric Ebron high and were just disappointed. I think like the past several years, if you had a Steelers tight end, they did not perform well. But I think the Steelers have had tight ends that were good in the past. Like Heath Miller was a top 12 dynasty tight end or fantasy tight end. When you had him, and if you look at Freiermuth's stats, Freiermuth finished with more catches, more yards, and more touchdowns than Heath Miller in Heath Miller's rookie season. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I think that's kind of what reassures me to put. I have the highest out of all of us. That's kind of what is reassuring to me is like, hey, this is a guy that they love. They want to get back to when they had a just absolutely solid tight end like Keith Miller. And I think that there is always going to be churn in their wide receiver room, and they love to have like a consistent tight end over for the next I think he's going to be their franchise tight end. Like I think he's going to be there a long time. So that's why I have in mind.
100% agree. 100%. Let me ask you a question. If Pitts hadn't had the season he had, where it's just touchdowns was the only thing he was missing. So let's take Pitts out of the equation. How much more would we be talking about Pat Freiermuth? Like his rookie season was unbelievable, and it was all done in like 10 weeks. It wasn't even the full season.
Oh, so
but he just gets overshadowed by Pitts.
Yeah. So if you're saying Pitts just wasn't a prospect at all coming in, that Muth would. Yeah. I think it probably is fair to say that
the upside of like the future, but like Pat Freiermuth had an amazing season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is when you look at Pitts, I think the reason why it's so overshadowed is because of the talent gap between the two. If you really look, Pitts is just phenomenal, and obviously Pitts is like a generational type talent in terms of the tight end, and Pat Freiermuth is just a really good tight end, but he didn't do anything that was specifically like amazing that was on the field that from what I watched on film for him.
So, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So rounding out our top 10 in tight ends, we've got Dallas Goedert at 9 and Cole Kmet at 10. These are two guys that I think we all have Dallas Goedert in our top 10, and Trev, you have Cole Kmet at 13, so let's skip Goddard real quick and talk about why you hate Cole Kmet.
I don't hate Cole Kmet, but I don't believe in just about any piece of the Chicago offense. So he is definitely going to be, again, I just talked about it, but like the number 2 target, like no doubt about it. He's not going to be the number 1, but he's the clear number 2. So he's going to get targets. But when we're talking about in a dynasty format, I don't believe in anything on the Bears team, including the tight end. So like love him for this year, maybe next year. But if I'm picking him up, I'm looking to probably try to trade him for an upgrade halfway through the year when he's got, this unbelievable touchdown rate and catch rate and all this PPR action going for him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just when I look at Cole Kmet, it's not necessarily like, wow, I need to have Cole Kmet in my top 10 because he's so amazing. It's more so he's young. He's going to be a number 2 target on his offense. And the rest of the guys under him, they're not really all that impressive to me. I think some of these guys, they're more so streamers. I think Cole Kmet could really be the last in that tier of starter. So that's more so why I like Cole Kmet. I do think he was 0 touchdowns last year on 96 targets.
Yeah, it's just definitely not going to happen again.
Yeah.
It's a toxic offense and 0 touchdowns, but he did have he was like league high in tight end red zone targets. So like I feel like even though I'm the lowest at 13, I would have him a ton lower if they weren't already looking to get him touchdowns. Like he led the league in touchdown red zone rate. So like he's gonna get touchdowns next year. If you've got Kmet, hold him, and if you're trying to get him this year before the season starts. And then if it's me, I'm trading him 3/4 of the way through the year or at the end of the year when he's doing the best he's gonna do in his career.
Yeah.
Wow. If you think that 13's a little high.
He's gonna have a great, like I said, a great year or two. But I just don't think he's gonna be able to keep it up as far as we're talking about dynasty ranking. So.
Yeah. So, and going back to Goddard now, who was our 9th ranked tight end, I have him highest at 8. I really like Goddard. It's pretty obvious that it scares you guys away. This is a run first team, or at least they want to be a run first team. He's going to be the 3rd target there behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and obviously the questions of Jalen Hurts passing. I just like the talent of Goddard so much more than these guys. When you look at him, he's athletic. He's really good. I wouldn't surprise me if he just gets like 6-7 touchdowns this year, and he's just that red zone guy. So that's really the reason why I like Dallas Goedert a lot. Because listen, it wasn't long ago before we were all saying free Dallas Goedert. Yeah.
I mean, so the reason I have him lower is I think I don't think he's going to get 6-7 touchdowns because I think that if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles offense last year, they had Devontae Smith as like, a guy that they're going to use to move the chains, and then Dallas Goedert in the red zone. Now they have AJ Brown. This team didn't lose any pass catchers and added AJ Brown. And so, I just think a lot of Goddard's red zone targets and targets overall are going to go to AJ Brown.
They lost Jalen Reagor, so like.
Whoa! Hold on.
Whoa.
Jalen Reagor.
Reagor here.
Yeah, so that's the concern for me. I just think that AJ Brown's going to cut significantly into Goddard's workload.
I 100% agree. If we see the Goddard that we hope to see when we were talking about free Dallas Goedert, when it was let's combine Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert's numbers, and that should be their tight end rank, that guy deserves to be way higher than number 9. But based on what we seen last year after Ertz was gone, 9 is reasonable or maybe even a little high. Like he wasn't hyper targeted. He wasn't targeted hardly at all.
That was before AJ Brown.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's fair. I just think the efficiency of this offense is going to go up. I'm starting to really rise on the Eagles, guys, and it's scary.
I do think that if anything to be pro Dallas Goedert is, I actually disagree that they want. So last year they kind of became a run first team by necessity because like halfway through the year they realized that nothing else was working. I don't necessarily know that that's what they
then that's fair.
They like a premier wide receiver.
Yeah,
right.
They went out to try and make the passing game work now.
Yeah.
You had Fulgham and Ward. Like you had to do something.
So yeah, exactly. Like they couldn't.
Philadelphia Eagles superstar Travis Fulgham, currently on the Green Bay Packers practice squad now.
Oh my God!
I remember
Cap kept trying to trade Fulgham for oh my God.
Right.
Do you remember that? He was. Anyways, that's for another conversation.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, we got a couple tight ends that we want to talk about. We've got Irv Smith at 12, Noah Fant at 13, Trey McBride at 14, and that's more so. You've got Trey McBride at 10, Trev, and I got him at 22. Sam, you have him at 17. So that's a big disparity. So if you want to talk about Trey McBride real quick.
Absolutely. One quick question. So 22 and 17. Where do y'all have Zach Ertz?
I have Zach Ertz.
You go.
I have Zach Ertz at 13, and just looking at that looks way too high for a old ass tight end. But
all right, Sam, what you got?
I have Ertz at 23.
Okay, so like middle of the pack. But see, the way I see it is, I have Ertz at 18, which I think is still way too high. McBride, I think, we talk about the targets that are going to be missing with D-Hop being out for 6 weeks, going to Hollywood Brown and maybe to Moore. Ertz capitalized on D-Hop being out with injury. So now that he's out again, this one's suspension. But I don't think they drafted McBride to sit behind Ertz for a year. I think they paid Ertz, and the possibility that McBride doesn't turn into what he has been in the preseason, which is great. So I think they're already going to be moving away from Ertz week 2, week 3. So when we're talking about a dynasty tight end, I mean, we're not really talking about McBride a lot as much as we were talking about Pitts last year, but that dude was the number 2 tight end on my board. It's just me personally. But he was a great receiving tight end, and he's going to a team that loves to pass. And at least from what we can tell with Ertz, they love to pass to a tight end that can catch. So if McBride is what Ertz was last year, throughout the whole year, he's going to be even better after the catch, because Ertz could not do anything after the catch. He was just catching balls and then going down. McBride's going to be able to do something, break tackles and run far, run fast.
If there was one thing I could say for Trey McBride in terms of strategy-wise for Dynasty, I would much rather if you believe in Trey McBride, I would rather not go for Trey McBride this year. Wait until the end of the season, because if you look at this offense, you've got, let's say, 6 weeks after DeAndre Hopkins comes back. You've got DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore, Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz. You've got James Conner. You've got Eno Benjamin. You've got Trey McBride. So you got all that, and listen, obviously James Conner, Benjamin, not too targeted in the passing game, but they're going to catch balls. And then so you've got all that muddled in there. He's not going to have a good season this year. People are going to be a little frustrated with him because this was the number 1 tight end drafted in this year's draft. So they're going to say, oh, man, Trey McBride, bust. Go and target him next year. Try and trade for him. People aren't going to want him as much as they do this year. So that's just...
Right, well, I don't disagree with that, like, at all. The one thing I will to, like, counter that is, like, okay, let's say you drafted Pitts. Pitts had a terrible year for what we expected of him. Now, he had a fantastic year.
Pitts was the number 4 pick. I think it's just way different.
I totally get it, but listen to what I'm saying real quick. So Pitts had a worse year than we thought he would get. He still had a great year, but he had a worse year than we thought he would. If McBride has a bad year in comparison to being the number 10 tight end, which is what I have him as, let's say he finishes as number 15, how much easier is it going to be to get him than it was to get Pitts? Because it's still basically impossible to get Pitts because of what he represents for the future.
I mean, I just don't. I don't see Trey McBride having real fantasy relevance this year. That's the only problem. Just with Ertz there, they're gonna have Ertz as the number 1. So yeah. So we'll just move on from that because you guys are high on Irv Smith. So let's just talk about him real quick. He had I believe it was a thumb injury coming into the camp.
Latest news is he should be ready by week 1.
Yeah. So I have him a little bit lower.
Going into this week.
I've got him at 16. I just think we've seen Irv Smith enough to know you're not going to be able to rely on him because he's been injured. And just from what we've seen on the field, he hasn't been that incredible. I don't think he's that top 10 guy that you're looking for. He's more so just a flex start. So,
Sam, you're the one that turned me on to Irv. You wanna take this?
I mean, so the reasons I love Irv are, one, I think he's incredibly talented. So I mean, I think that there's a group of guys in this NFL tight end pool that are like just absolutely talented. Like Noah Fant would be one of those. DJ Hawkinson, Irv Smith to me.
Hunter Henry.
Sure. Njoku would be one of those guys. Yeah. But it's just these guys who are like, okay, like no matter what team they're on, like those guys are just incredible athletes. So that's one reason I'm really high on Irv. Second is I think that the Vikings offense is going to be even more. I think they're going to be just absolutely slinging the ball this year. I mean, they're bringing in Kevin O'Connell from the Rams. Like they are going to build this team around the passing offense. So I think they're going to throw the ball so much. It's going to be high scoring offense, tons of passing yards. So I think that there's going to be a big piece of the pie for Irv Smith to eat. Now, I will say my biggest concern with Irv Smith is that he's O.J. Howard 2.0.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a big possibility that's the case, right?
Wait, are you talking about Texans superstar tight end O.J. Howard?
Yeah. Well, I hope he's great. I hope he's still great, obviously. But, O.J. Howard was like nobody ever doubted the talent of O.J. Howard, right?
Yeah.
And there was every single year O.J. Howard was highly ranked because it was like, this is the year he's going to break out,
No, forget about last season. He's great.
Dude, Achilles injuries
are exactly. But even before the Achilles, people felt that way. Even before the Achilles, people felt that way about O.J. Howard, and he still didn't break out.
I felt that way. Yeah.
So
I was one of them.
I'm just
leaning on that Achilles.
Yeah. So that's my only reason I would be concerned about Irv. But yes, he's been coming back from a meniscus tear, not an Achilles, smaller injury, and
and he has had multiple.
I could just see how I could be. I could see how I could be very wrong.
Yeah.
So
they've been different. So he has been injury prone, but we find players like that who deal with a multitude of injuries, and then out of nowhere they're fine.
Just because there's another player who looked a similar path does not mean Irv Smith will have a similar outcome. Like he could definitely be different. I think he will be, but I'm just gonna say as the counter. So, anyways.
And now, lastly, I cannot leave a tight end ranking show without talking about my guy, Noah Fant, who I loved so much. Rest in peace, Noah Fant's breakout fantasy season. It broke my heart when... Guys, it was the most cruel thing. I don't know if you remember how the Russell Wilson trade news broke, but it was
Yeah, they're just
Russell,
like,
the
and Noah
Broncos
Fant.
acquire 4 players and picks for Russell Wilson. It's the
You're like,
Broncos ship away 4 players, and it's like, oh, who are these players?
Wilson
Who are the
with
players?
Fant.
And then it goes, oh, Shelby Harris is gone. Oh, they got rid of another guy, whatever, a linebacker, someone, blah blah blah. And then it's like, okay, who's the fourth guy? Who's the fourth guy? And then it's like it simmers and it's waiting and it doesn't get released for like another couple minutes. The first 3 were like quick, and then we're like, who's the fourth guy? And then it comes out and it's Noah Fant, and my heart drops, guys, because I'm like, no. Because imagine Russell Wilson and Noah Fant on the same team. That would have been great. Why couldn't it have been Alberto? Can we reverse the trade? Can we send Alberto to Seattle with Drew Lock? And
I would have
Because
Fant much
the
higher.
Broncos
So-
would not be able to pay Russell Wilson that big contract if they had to pay Fant as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you
That's
right
the
now.
reason.
I'll tell you right now. I'm looking at Darren Waller at 6, and that would be a nice spot for Noah Fant if he had Russell Wilson as quarterback. So.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you know,
absolutely.
if there's one thing that you guys can take away from this, self-reflect on how you view players. Because even myself now doing this tight end rankings, I'm looking at guys like Darren Waller and Zach Ertz where I have them, and I'm like, man, that's way too high, and I should move them. So just before you go into your drafts, just double check, take a look at your guys, and then really think, like, would I really take these guys over these guys? And just do some self-reflecting. Because looking at my rankings, I definitely got to move some things around a little bit. So.
I'll say this too, when we're talking about startups with these dynasty tight ends, unless you get a Mark Andrews or a Kyle Pitts, or I mean Kittle's not too old, so like a Kittle or a TJ Hawkinson. If you get one of the older guys, like you're talking about Zach Ertz, you may have to pay up a hair. But if you get like a Zach Ertz, it seems like a lot of the time, but getting another younger tight end that you believe in a few more rounds, like 2 or 3 rounds later, seems like a lot of the time. But to have the guy lined up behind the guy that's only a 1 or 2 year starter in a startup, versus trying to draft a tight end and then waiting another 2 or 3 years, it pays off.
Yeah,
I love collecting tight ends in startup drafts.
Yeah, you're the guy who
You definitely do. That's
you
very
look
true.
you look at the roster and then you'll see 9 tight ends that are all just backups.
Usually his taxi
Sure
squad
will.
is 5 tight ends.
You've got your Noah Grays,
4
Trey
quarterbacks.
McKitties, Hunter Longs,
Love-
all of these guys.
Love all those guys.
Yeah, bunch
I
of
love
wasted
all those
roster
guys.
spots.
Yeah.
I love all Hunter Long. Okay, hold on. Hunter Long was a wasted roster spot. Gesicki's getting traded. Noah Gray, Kelsey baby out
Dude,
this year.
Hunter
I'm
Long-
just saying, guys,
Hunter
it's a
Long is
possibility.
trash.
Keep convincing yourself.
I'm just
all right?
telling you, Hunter. Even if Gesicki gets traded, it's gonna be Durham Smythe.
No way.
All right.
All right,
They're
guys.
gonna fill my taxi squad until they're cut.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today on our quarterbacks and tight end rankings. Thank you for watching. If you've stuck around this long, if you liked the video, make sure to leave a like down below. And then if you have any questions for us on Twitter, the Dynasty Pod at the Dynasty Pod FF. Reach out to us. Trade questions, roster questions. I'm always on Twitter checking it out. So if you got a question for us, send it to Twitter. All right. And peace out.